Hey everybody, welcome back to my coverage of the PogChamps 3 tournament. This is the Logic versus Ludwig 4th championship quarterfinals. It's the fourth match of the championship quarterfinals, the fourth of four matches. And this is the tiebreaker game, Ludwig versus Logic. So they're both tied at 1-1. Ludwig won the second game, Logic won the first game. And whoever wins this game will be the winner of the match. And we'll move on to the semifinals. So the format is 5-0, both players get 5 minutes, and if they draw, they simply rematch and switch colors. Ludwig gets the white pieces because he is in the higher seed. He did win his group stage. He did win his group in the group stage. Logic placed second in his group in the group stage. So for that reason, Ludwig gets the white pieces in this game, and this is a wild game. So let's just see how it went. We have e4 and e5 from Logic, knight f3, knight c6, and we have a Scotch game like in game one. We have e takes d4, knight takes d4, and bishop c5, bishop e3. This is still following the first game, and here in the first game, Logic played knight to f6, which was a huge blunder because it lost a piece after knight takes c6. However, this time Logic played queen to f6, which is the correct move. This is a very theoretical move. This is the classical variation of the Scotch game, and Ludwig correctly continues with the move c3. So this is still theory, and we have d6. More commonly is knight g to e7, and then white has a couple of different moves they can choose from, but d6 is okay as well. We have bishop c4 and now bishop d7 from Logic, and both players castle. We have rook to e1 and now knight g to e7. Both players are doing a very good job at developing, getting their pieces out, so very good job so far. We have bishop b5 now, and now knight to e5. Bishop takes d7 and rook takes d7. Knight to d2. Ludwig completes development, and now h6. Both players doing very fine so far. We have queen to a4 now. Ludwig develops his queen, and bishop takes d4. And this bishop takes d4 is actually a huge blunder from Logic because it allows this c takes d4 move, and now the knight is hit and your a7 pawn is also hit. And if you try to play knight to c6, then there's d5, and the knight has to move again, and then you lose this a7 pawn, and it's just not good at all. So, so Ludwig did have this. Will he go for it? No, he does not. He does not play c takes d4. He instead plays bishop takes d4, which is not as strong because now black can play a6 and be fine. But instead of playing a6, we have knight 7 to g6 from Logic, and this does not defend the a pawn, so Ludwig definitely takes it this time. He takes that a pawn with queen takes a7, and now white is threatening queen to a8, checkmate, so black's got to do something about that. Logic plays king to d8, and this does stop the checkmate because now the king can escape to e7. This is not a skewer on the rook because the knight defends the rook. So we simply have bishop takes e5. And I think queen takes b7 would have been stronger here, just grabbing another pawn and creating a passed a pawn as white. It looks like white is losing a piece after c5, but white can save it with this queen to b6 move check, and then they can save the bishop on the next turn. They can either trade it or move it to e3. So I think this queen takes b7 would have been stronger. But we have bishop takes e5 instead, and d takes e5, and now queen takes b7. And now this is a huge blunder because after this d takes e5 move from Logic, it's a discovered attack on this knight on d2. So you have to do something about this knight. Rook a to d1 is a very nice move. And I mean, here black can now save this pawn with a move like queen to a6. So yeah, white had to go for something like this. However, instead, now Logic plays queen takes b7, and this hangs the knight on d2. So will Logic see it? Yes, he does. He does play rook takes d2, and now we have rook a to e1 by Ludwig, and this actually hangs checkmate in 2 after queen takes f2 because this rook is attacking this f2 square. King h1 and queen takes g2. This is checkmate. So Logic has mate in 2 here. Will he see it? By the way, in this position, here you needed to play a move like rook to f1, simply defending this f2 pawn. But we have rook a to d1 instead, going for this rook trade, but hanging this f2 pawn, which leads to checkmate. Will Logic see it? No, he doesn't. He plays rook takes d1, which is a terrible blunder because now after really the most obvious move ever, rook takes d1, white is totally winning. Here you have to sacrifice the queen actually to avoid checkmate as black. So really this rook takes d1 move You went from having checkmate in 2 to black, checkmate in 2 as black to being checkmated in 4 moves, unless you want to sacrifice the queen, which, nobody's going to do that. Here, I mean, this is black's best try, but it's still completely losing here. Because if you move the king anywhere here, it's just going to be mate. If you move the king, well, let's just see what happened. So in the game, Logic played king to e7, and here Ludwig correctly took this pawn on c7, and now black has 3 legal moves. If you play the king to e6, this is checkmated 1. It's the dovetails mate. If you play king to e8, now there's queen c8 check, and now if king to e7, there's rook d7 check and queen c6 checkmate. So you can't go to e8 either, and if you go to f8, then there's simply rook to d8. The only legal move is to sacrifice the queen, and then this is checkmate with the queen. So which one did Logic go for? It's going to be checkmate either way, but will Ludwig find it? So Logic goes for king to e6, which is the worst one because there's actually a couple checkmates here. You can do this queen d7 dovetails mate, as we've seen, or you could even play rook to d6 or even queen to d6, and I think that solved the checkmates. But yeah, Ludwig does find one of these. He plays rook to d6 actually, and this is checkmate. So Ludwig takes game 3 in a very surprising turn of events. I mean, this game was really quick is what I'm trying to say. Not surprising, but like if we just go back to move 12, like this is a completely normal position, and then 9 moves later we have this crazy position with the king on e6. So very crazy and wild game, blunders from both sides, but Ludwig does take it. And so here are the standings after the quarterfinals round. We have Benji Fishy versus Rainn Wilson in one of the semifinals, and Sardoche versus Ludwig in the other semifinals round. So definitely going to be very interesting matches. I think Sardoche is the favorite in the second semifinals match, and I don't know who the favorite would be in the first semifinals. My instinct would say Benji Fishy is the favorite, but Rainn Wilson could also win. That match is going to be close. But I think in this other match, Sardoche is the clear favorite. And if Benji Fishy and Sardoche both win their semifinals match, we will see a rematch between them in the finals because they have already played each other one time in the group stage. So that would be definitely very interesting. But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. Ludwig definitely played really well in this match. I mean, he blundered a couple times, but for the most part, he played extremely accurate. Logic, he did pretty well. And I hope Logic keeps playing chess because he's a good player. And he's a nice guy too. So I don't think I have anything else to say about this game or this match. So we'll cover those semifinals matches. Check out my PogChamps 3 playlist up there, and check out another chess video over there. Stay awesome. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.